Dr. David Okeyo, who is the Chief Executive Officer in position of Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute. Welcome, Dr. Okeyo, and may we give a round of applause as Dr. Okeyo is coming. Thank you.
The title is Revolutionary Developments in the Regulatory Framework as Key to Building Competent Nutrition and Dietetics Workforce in Kenya. In the context of UHC, when you look at revolutionary, from the dictionary perspective, it simply means innovation. And our slogan, of course, in KNDI is to become an innovative regulatory authority recognized internationally. And that has been justified by many benchmarking that we get from different countries. And I want to say that we have had so many countries from the East African region asking us, how did you manage to pass this law? And I really want to emphasize that this law came to being because of one very important lady called Professor Julia Ojambo. Can we clap for her for the good work that she did? If you look at that booklet, Professor Julia was supposed to give us the inaugural keynote address, which was to focus more on the historical perspective of nutrition. And I want to say that Professor did her first nutrition in 1959. And she got her PhD in 1979. And that gave us the roadmap for nutrition in the country. During those days, nutrition came in as domestic science. And so it was meant only for ladies. So if you see so many ladies being at the top, then you know that nutrition started from the ladies. When I was going to do nutrition major in the curriculum of home science and technology, the entire family was up in arms saying you must change to education because you are the best mathematics students in the whole district, so why do you do this subject? And I said mathematicians can do everything, even Kiswahili. So as long as you have that knowledge of analytical, you can fit everywhere. But maybe God has a reason and a purpose for that. KNDI is operating as a state corporation, MINI, that is semi-autonomous under the Ministry of Health, but we don't report to any director under the Ministry of Health. I think that is where we have had a lot of tug of war, and it is evidence, but we are really embracing the Ministry of Health because that is the home ministry. So we work together with them. But we also extend to Ministry of Education and Ministry of Agriculture. Under CAP 253B, we have a coat of arms because this is for Republic of Kenya. And then our logo is on the right-hand side. That logo has remained the same. So, universal health coverage. Everybody says universal health coverage. And even now, the Agenda 4 of our President Kenyatta's agenda for the next 5 years is focused towards universal health coverage. And so all of us must see ourselves within that framework of UHC. But then, sometimes we may need to ask questions that how do we then achieve universal health coverage? And of course, when all people receive the quality of services they need without suffering financial hardship, that is a good indicator. And what are the elements of the UHC that people use of health services they need and the economic consequences of doing so? So they use the services and then they look at the economics of the services. And what are the critical objectives of UHC? Everybody should be able to access full range of health services, including promotion, preventive treatment, rehabilitation, and of course, palliative care. And when you talk of the alarming growing rates of cancer in the country, then we think of this. And the second objective is to ensure protection from the financial risk associated with seeking care. At some point when we were discussing the UHC financing and the economics from the Ministry of Health were presenting, we asked them one story because their emphasis was on medical equipment and of course treatment. And we asked which one has more cost-benefit analysis. If you focus more on prevention, spend more at the initial stage, in the long run, how much return do you get in terms of social return equivalent and monetary return equivalent? And it became a debate. So everybody was saying that, but we don't have people in the preventive pushing the agenda. Most of us are only focusing on clinical management. So the nutrition-specific indicator in this context, provision of quality nutrition and dietetic services. So it is of no use having access to nutrition tools that is poorly calibrated or run by an untrained health professional. You may have equipment, but they're not used. The billions of equipment that were purchased by the Ministry of Health, nobody has the skills to run those technologies, especially for cancer. So why do you spend billions, yet no one is able to use? They're not well trained to use. Or you are going to borrow doctors from Cuba when we have PhD holders in medicine and they're never utilized or they're poorly paid. An important equity dimension, universal health coverage exists when all people receive the quality, and the term here is quality, health services they need without suffering any financial hardship. So when you talk of reaching everyone, then everybody must be reached by all services. And if you look at the current financing with the insurance companies, the focus is on treatment and medical services. Nobody offers services as an insurance company for nutrition services. So they are not costed in the whole scheme of service. Yet, if we spend more money in nutrition, then we would spend less in treatment, which is more expensive. So those contexts have not been looked at. So the big question is, what role does nutrition play within universal health coverage concept? And the answer is clear that we have a critical role to play in health promotion, prevention, treatment, rehabilitation, and palliative care. That is as inscribed in the concept. So what is the evidence that nutrition plays that role? We are all scientists. We have been here presenting papers or in the 2 halls. Most of them are cutting across the 9 thematic areas we identified at the initial stage of this planning. In the scientific matrix, systematic reviews, for those who understand what systematic review means, have demonstrated improved longevity and quality of health life, as well as delayed care cost when nutrition is applied at a primary prevention. And what Professor Okeyo was talking about of healthy diet from the Japanese community is a demonstration of an additional evidence. So lifestyle interventions, which include nutrition and primary dietetics knowledge, has been found to be cheaper in the prevention of heavy conditions like diabetes and, of course, cardiovascular disease. And we have several authors which share the same idea. Credible studies also have demonstrated the role of optimal nutrition in obesity prevention and management. I happen to be one of those in obesity studies and non-communicable disease. And I know that when you have nutrition as critical intervention tool, then obesity is curtailed. And of course, the risk factors associated with obesity are also curtailed. Nutrition has been shown to provide targeted, effective primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention interventions of disease, including type 2 diabetes and many other non-communicable conditions. So those are evidence at the prevention. Of course, still on evidence elsewhere, registered dietitians and dietetics technicians, these are now professionals, are uniquely equipped to provide essential nutrition and dietetic interventions with strong value addition in health promotion, prevention, and treatments. KNDI has also joined in this matrix by training and building competencies of nutritionists in different domains, which I will talk about, to make sure that they fit into that system of health promotion and prevention. Also, high quality systematic reviews have demonstrated cost effectiveness of outpatient medical nutrition therapy services provided by registered qualified dietitians for patients with obesity, diabetes, disorders of lipid metabolism, and other chronic conditions. Now, this demonstrates how effective a highly trained dietitian or nutritionist would deliver services in their professional practice. So our emphasis in KNDI is that we must have a unique, highly qualified nutritionist to deliver services. The key areas where nutrition and dietetics have played a role include preventive or prevention and management of chronic conditions. We have said that before, and this is cutting across all the entire life cycle. So then it means that good nutrition is important in caring of patients with life-limiting illnesses or illness, not only for meeting the body's physical requirement, but also because of the associated social, cultural, and psychological benefits. And one of the things that nutritionists have forgotten is the cultural and social perspective of food. Sometimes I was telling those who engage in supplementation that when supplementation is good, when it comes to high-level intervention, but do you think about the social aspect of food? For me, if I see food and I see ugali, then I feel that I've taken food. But if you give me a tablet of this equivalent energy requirement, then there is no food. So where is the social aspect? We must also know that food has been used as a point of contact for relationships. So if you eat, you feed me through the window. So how do I get the social intimacy during that component? So this has been left out in the components. So in palliative care, nutrition provided has been tailored for patient needs in many places, and of course for enhancing patients' comfort and also quality of life. And quality of life here means how much can you put in to increase the days somebody lives with a particular condition. So when you talk of disability adjusted, or when you talk of the other component of measure of quality, how do you ensure that somebody live longer even with the condition? By setting up interventions that will prolong life and provide quality of life. So a collaborative, proactive, and integrated process in the healthcare facilities and across levels of care and age group, together with measurable, sustained outcomes that we get from them, shared best practices like what we are doing now, preventive ethics will be needed to change the culture of care in the country. Implementation of better process, including basic concepts, require more communication skills in healthcare. And whenever we go out to inspect health facilities and also to talk to the training institutions, we insist that we want to see the initial stages of collaborative processes between different cadres. This has been left out, and so people work on their own, and they don't do collective care process. So all this can only be possible through rigorous practice and continuing professional development. And what we are doing today is also the launch of the CPD programs that we have at the institution. So where are we at KNDI in the push for the USC? First of all, in Kenya, KNDI identified gaps in nutrition service coverage as a key subject in healthcare delivery. And then proper training at pre-service education, that is college level or university level, and then post-service, that is the pre-service, and what we call the in-service, and continuing professional development remains a challenge in Kenya and the world within nutrition and dietetics, medical and public health paradigms. In view of these observations, efforts to ensure this gap is fully closed as key step towards universal health coverage is needed, and KNDI has come in to do this. So, taking you to the Cap 253B, which is the guiding law in this framework, we have 8 critical functions of the Council, and the ninth one is to allow us to explore other avenues for implementation of the law. So the first law is to determine and set a framework for professional practice of nutritionists and dietitians in Kenya. And then we enforce programs of quality assurance for nutrition and dietetic profession. And number 3 is to set and enforce standards of professional practice and ethics of nutrition and dietetics in Kenya. And then approve institutions as institutions for purposes of training persons to be registered under the law. And then research into and provide public education on nutrition and dietetics. And this can be done directly or in proxy by different professionals and in collaboration with training institutions. And then maintain competence of members by updating their knowledge through publications and, of course, other conducts of research. And that is why we have conferences and journals for sharing knowledge. And then we have tools for that. Now, these are some of the tools, sample tools we use, that is the RC1 and RC5. And these are business registration and individual practitioners registration forms. They can be found in our website. Then we have the accreditation of and training services. KNDI inspects training institutions based on 11 standards, as indicated in the training standards checklist and manual. We have a document called training standard, and that is where we have all the indicators and requirements for training nutritionists. KNDI also gives option of 2-level recognition for training colleges. We do at interim level when already you are in training, and we give a period of 1 year for as training institution to implement our guidelines. And then we do final inspection where we award full license. And if you heard that Pwani University was awarded full license, then you know that they have met the minimum 80% threshold. And Dr. Onyango is here. We went to the institution and many others, and they know we do it, and we do it with passion. There is no question. And when we have done it together, we smile, as the Vice Chancellor was saying. Sometimes when we come, we don't give a damn. We say this is our profession and we must protect it, and you have to give us quality. We also do inspection of companies, food companies, and one of the companies that has consistently allowed us to inspect them, and the demand for it, is Weetabix. And we have gone through their value chain system. What we inform them is that at this level, we don't do product analysis because of the capacity and partnership we are building, but we do process value chain analysis of all, we're using 32 scale indicator. And we have done it twice, and their processes have been accredited because of the sequence of food safety and hygiene that they are practicing. So we also do that at KNDI. So where did KNDI start in 2012? Of course, the law came into being in 2007, but the council was established fully in 2010, February, through a gazettement done by the Minister for Health. And it picked up very well in 2012 when we began to do a curriculum in 2011. And why was the curriculum being done? We realized that every university and college were teaching their own things. So people taught what they thought was nutrition. So the first thing that happened was to invite all critical stakeholders teaching the subject to come with their curriculums as in person. And when they came with the curriculums, they were told, now let us go through the curriculum. First of all, if you think you are a nutritionist, go to this corner. If you think you are a dietitian, be at the middle. If you think you don't know where you are, go to the left corner. And so we realized all the professionals could not classify themselves as to whether they were nutritionists or dietitians or both. And so we say then if we don't know, then we start from where we know. So then we know that the curricula is the core. So what do you teach in Egerton University? What do you teach in the University of Nairobi? What do you teach in Masinde Muliro, Maseno? So all the curriculums were brought. And we said now the first step is to check which critical core unit is taught across the colleges. So we identified 41 core units that were cutting across the colleges. And we said today we are having this as critical core guideline. So every college must teach 41 units. And then you can add on to other units as much as you can, depending on the niche of that institution. And so the documents I'm displaying there gives us the core curricular guideline for BSc program in Kenya. We are teaching one single curriculum. Then we have the certificates course in nutrition and dietetics, also a core guideline. And then the diploma. We do not prescribe curriculum, but we prescribe core curricular guidelines. Now, based on this, this is a picture that shows the workshop in 2012. When we participated in the core curricular development, it took us almost 2 weeks to come up with a draft curriculum. And the person who was leading the process at that time was a medical educationist who was not a nutritionist from Moi University. And on the third day, I said, no, you have to stop here so that the nutritionist can be the driver. And we took it up with Dr. Nguka and Dr. Bidi, and we finished the process guided by Professor Edward Karuri, who was the chair of accreditation then. A separate list of compliant members are kept in a financial database and displayed in the website as a retention list. That is what makes you a professional. So you can be a registered member, but not a professional. So about 6,500 are registered, while only 2,000, today I was told in the morning, 2,900 members are retained, which means that they are fully compliant. And 300 professionals have not updated their telephone contacts ever since they were registered. So we don't know whether they were dead or they are available. 1,000 are employed by the Ministry of Health and counties, and the remaining ones are unemployed, or they are wandering around, or they are doing other things. So that also gives us a gap that may probably be identified. But of course, employers have been informed of this procedure and advised only to engage professionals, because the law is very clear. If you engage a non-professional, then you are prosecuted. But of course, we don't want to go into that level, so we encourage them to ensure all professionals are compliant. Again, KNDI has developed a scope of practice guidelines, which is in draft stage, and why is because even those who are policymakers don't understand what is the role of a nutritionist and what is the role of a dietitian, and how many do we need in a level 1 hospital, how many do we need in level 4, or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So this scope of practice will be rolled out sooner than expected if we get council to work. But it defines clearly that a dietitian is not a nutritionist. True or false? That is false. A dietitian is a nutritionist, but more specialized. But a nutritionist is not necessarily a dietitian. So that one is clearly defined so that you don't masquerade as a professional that I am a dietitian. So this will be soon coming. Enforcement of programs of quality assurance. This one we started with the training institution, and if you see there, that is Dr. Nguka's Vice Chancellor. The first time we inspected them in 2014, sorry. And they got full accreditation after being inspected 3 times. So they failed twice. They were not very good students. And finally, when they got it, they were celebrating. The Vice Chancellor took it. But up there is Maseno University, which followed. That is our late Professor Makaweti. And I was there on the right side. You can see I was still the head of department. So we received our accreditation again in 2014. On this, we have also set up a research ethics review guideline, which we will be sending to Dr. Nguka and his team to approve. And then we will set him up. He's also part of that committee and many others from different universities. You are welcome, Dr. Tochi, to be part of that committee so that we self-review our work instead of sending it elsewhere. So, in terms of maintaining members' competence by updating their knowledge, KNDI has developed a CPD guideline. And if you look at our website some other times, you will download the entire booklet of CPD, which states how you can accumulate your CPD points through research, publication, participation in workshop. By the time this workshop ends, if you have registered, automatically you get 5 CPD points for the year for having been trained for 3 days. And for those who are presenting, they get 7 points. Now, those who will publish their paper automatically will get 14 points. And that means we can retain you in the register on the basis of continuing professional education. Our CPD minimum is 14 points, equivalent to 42 hours per year. So the renewals subsequently will not be based on money. It will be based on the points plus money. So you have to accumulate 14 to be retained. So make sure you don't go before you ask, how many points do I have for this year? Then still on competency of members, we have the first or inaugural scientific nutrition and dietetics conference, which has brought us together. And the thinking of this conference was the Journal of Nutrition and Dietetics. That was the theory behind it, and we said we must bring professionals together. At Pwani University, initially we wanted to do it in Nairobi, but we thought sometimes you need to go away from the city. And we are here for it. If you look at our first proceedings for the conference, it's very colorful, very interesting. A lot of efforts have gone in, and you have contributed into building of that effort. That is what we call the community of practice. So when we emphasize community of practice from the Nutrition Edge and Health Plus, you will take our message back. This is what we mean by community of practice. It is in your objective as Nutrition and Health Plus. And this is going to help us come up with critical policy briefs. One of the things that our professionals have lacked is to translate their research, which is on the desk, to policy briefs that can inform policymakers. Policymakers just wake up one day and say, we want to set up NYS. You know the other one in nutrition. But then where do we get it from? It must be evidence-based. If you want to set up a fortification or food modification product, then you must have evidence. And that evidence comes from the researches we do, translated into policy briefs. Then, apart from that, I've talked about the CPDs. Providing training for nutritionists and dietitians, we start at pre-service level, that is universities and college, and then after that, we now professionalize the nutritionists. Now, when you look at that slide, you will notice one thing, that our programs in the country are BSc in nutrition and dietetics. So it combines the two components. But at post-degree level, we divide nutritionists into either nutrition or dietitian. And the nutrition component has 4 pillars: clinical nutrition, public health nutrition, we also have food science nutrition, and then community nutrition. And on the dietetic side, we have clinical dietitian and food service diet therapy. And this is where now the profession has come into a confusion, because those who had the old knowledge of nutrition believes that a nutritionist can do everything that we have mentioned. Yet we are saying that there should be a handing over the baton. If a clinical nutritionist in a facility has diagnosed and has given us the basic physiological and physical indicators for a patient, then the dietitians must interpret and say that this patient would require this amount of kilocalories, amount of nutrient supplementation. But then the food service diet therapy must use exchange lists to translate that into a real food. So these 3 people become critical in the service. And people have never thought like, our nutritionists are doing everything they can. They are community nutritionists, public health, they are in policy, you find them everywhere. So we are in a confusion, or like the way nutrients are in a confusion. Yes. And but we are bringing that back. On the professional examination, we have the criteria, and I would want to pass that. If you see the young girls and boys very busy with exams, that is a picture from one of our examination centers. And people are cracking their head. Sometimes we smile. We say, look at the way everybody is cracking their head. Yet they are graduates of universities and colleges. Now, this exam is not an academic exam. It is a standardization exam, so that we speak the same language. Sometimes when we are Christians, you speak in the Holy Ghost to belong to the same group. So for you to speak in the Holy Ghost of nutrition, then you must speak this language from a reference, and that is the examination. And when you look at the examination matrix, we have classified 9 areas, and we give exams to professionalize individuals. So if you go to the government scheme of service today, you will find that they have not captured the different sub-cadres we have in nutrition. For example, the counties are picking up technologists and technicians. But we do not have people recognizing public health nutritionists, community nutritionists, food science nutritionists. We don't have that in the schemes of service. And clinical nutritionist is also coming up. So very soon we will be on a push to ensure that different cadres are recognized in the schemes of service, and their grades given as per their training levels. In Kenya, that is, KNDI is making progress to close the gap in nutrition service delivery coverage as a key subject in the context of access as an aspect of UHC. And KNDI is enhancing continuing professional development, which we can see evidence-based. Of course, within the medical nutrition paradigm, and of course, internship and scientific sharing. In view of these observations, then efforts to ensure that this gap is fully closed as a key step towards UHC are required. And it is the professionals who can provide this effort by pushing the agenda further. But where are the challenges? One major challenge that we have is proper recognition of nutritionists and dietitians cadre in a major in all sectors in the 2 governments. We have the national government and the county government. And I have had a lot of conflicts with my colleagues in the national government because of this. Nutrition is not cooking. Nutrition is a science, and nutrition is not medicine. We don't wear stethoscopes. We study science and use it to influence the human physiology and physiological functions. And we value social aspect of life. So sometimes it has become a tug of war, but we have people, many of you here, who have supported us by making sure that nutrition is recognized. Now, both the county service boards and public services at national level are yet to understand the differences in specializations within nutrition subject or cadre and the scope of practice. And if you look at the advert here, this is an advert that came from a county, that is Kajiado, and you will see that they are advertising for a nutrition technologist, and all the adverts are only having nutrition technologies. Sometimes they say job group J stroke job group K, which means they're equating a diploma with a degree. So either of them can work. That tells you that they are not recognizing the different competency levels we have. And I have about 20 adverts like this from different countries, and they're only advertising for diplomas. So why are we training degree holders? And why do you want diplomas to work with the nurses only, without the degree supervisor? It's because they still want nutrition to be on the lower side. And when money comes, because nutrition seems to be bringing more money in the country, and also we are putting in more money for interventions, they want it to be controlled by the medical doctors. And that is what we are not going to accept. So that is a major challenge. And then we have to prepare the scope of practice so that we avoid adverts like this. This is also one for, if you look down here, is nutrition and dietetics, and they have given job group J stroke job group G stroke job group H. So we wonder whether a degree or a diploma or a certificate, and they can do the same job. And this is an education that is required to be passed. So it is you. It is not KNDI. KNDI is not Onguka or Okeyo or Professor Julia. KNDI is the practitioner. How do we push the agenda forward? Now, if they see that we are demonstrating rigorous practice by evidence, researching and giving evidence, writing policy briefs, conducting leadership trainings like what we do, then they will begin to recognize nutrition. For me, they have to just recognize, and Dr. Nguka knows. When we sit with them, they say, please leave Okeyo. He has gotten his position. And I will tell them, you are a medical doctor, sit down. I'm a doctor of science. And we are on equal platform. Bring your practice, I bring mine, we share on the same object. The object is the human being. So bring your medicine, I bring my nutrition. And we all solve the problem of one single individual. This is where we want to go. And all of you must join in this move. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. That's the end of this thing.
This time round, I'm going to request Trevor Clark, who will be presenting a gift to our CEO after reading the following statement. And during that process, I will request all our members that will rise up together after I've read the statement. Sasawa? These are very important opportunities. And as I said before, Dr. Okeyo is a registered and licensed nutritionist in the Kenya Nutritionist and Dietitians Institute, and is currently the Chief Executive Officer of KNDI. He said he is a 2009 doctoral dissertation scholar who was funded by APHRC and IDRC. In addition to these, he has remained in science and writing in the field of health, nutrition science, public health, and for that information, as that we talk, Dr. Okeyo has over 40 publications in peer-reviewed journals. In addition to the leadership, he has had progressive research management, and among which, including in the journal that we have, on August 2016, he emerged the winner of the Nestle Nutrition Institute Africa Award, Emerging Scientist category, and he is the current editor of our journal, Nutrition and Dietetics Journal. Today, Dr. Okeyo has just presented the the revolutionary developments in the regulatory framework as the key in building competencies in nutrition and dietetics workforce in Kenya in the context of universal healthcare or health coverage alignment within the active implementation between the period of 2012 to 2018. And as you can see, there is light at the end of the tunnel for nutrition. To the keynote address entitled Revolutionary Development in Regulatory Framework, which is a message from the Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute, has been presented by Dr. David Okeyo, MSc, PhD, and postdoctoral MPH, the first Nutrition and Dietetics Scientific Congress on 21st to 25th May 2018 at Pwani University.